while the ALDS is tied at 1 game apiece as we head back to the city of Detroit. We'll talk about that and more all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. Welcome in, everybody. Happy Wednesday as the Detroit Tigers prepare for Game 3 and 4 in Comerica Park. Words I never thought I would say. Again, I know that this whole run, everybody keeps reiterating, like, wow, if you would have just thought of this in, August or in July, we would have all laughed at you. That I understand that that's been repeated a billion times, but it's so true. This team was 9 games under 500. Sold at the deadline, and now is, dare I say, in the driver's seat here in the ALDS. Now, that's not to get ahead of myself. That's just looking ahead at the final 3 games here. The Tigers have now, because they stole a game in Cleveland. If Tarik Skubal was on the mound, is it really stealing a game? Because they won a game in Cleveland, there is now 2 games left in Comerica with 3 games left to play. And in that one game that's not in Comerica, if it ends up being played, you can throw Tarik Skubal again, who has a 0 ERA in the playoffs. So in this episode, I really want to, because we have an off day, the Tigers did not play, obviously a travel day on Tuesday. So I really want to talk about what has gone right in the postseason and what we need to see improved upon the rest of the way if the Tigers are to keep this run going. Now, I've said this point a million times this postseason, and I'll say it again. There is also a large element of throw everything you know out the window and just see what happens, right? Manuel Clase has given up 0 3-run home runs in his entire Major League Baseball career. And he gave one up in a tie game in the 9th in the playoffs to the Tigers on Monday night. So there is absolutely something to be said for just throw it all out the window. And I want to make that clear at the start of every episode that we kind of break all of these performances down. But as far as what has gone right in the postseason, I think the biggest takeaway I've had from this is they continue to win games the same way they were winning games at the end of the regular season, right? Since August 10th, that's the date that everybody always throws out there. Incredible bullpen work, incredible bullpen management by AJ Hinch, Tarik Skubal, and the offense getting 1 big hit. Is that sustainable? I mean, again, Kerry Carpenter's hit a 3-run homer to win a game off a dude who had given up 5 earned runs all calendar season. So, like, is this method sustainable over like 162 games? We can talk about that over the winter. We can talk about that in the offseason. I think that I don't think a single person watching this team is thinking, wow, this is the best roster in all of baseball, and we don't need to do anything in the winter, right? So we can talk about, what they need to do to make this sustainable over a full season when the Tigers stop playing baseball. But they don't need it to be sustainable over 162. They need it to be sustainable over the next game in front of them. They have been managing, AJ Hinch has been managing this team like it is the postseason since the trade deadline. They had zero starting pitching depth after trading away Flaherty, and with all the injuries they had in the starting rotation this year, it was Skubal and nobody. And Cater Montero. I want to give him his credit. He was great down the stretch too. And now they're winning games in October the same way they were playing at the end of the regular season. Who cares if it's sustainable over a full year? It just needs to be good enough to win the next game. And they have been managing like it's the playoffs for a long time. These guys are very used to this style of play, and they've all bought into it. Tarik Skubal has obviously been someone that has very much gone right for the Detroit Tigers this postseason. As I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, is a large reason as to why the Tigers are here. He has a 0 ERA in the postseason, and if it is necessary, he will pitch in Game 5 in the ALDS. I want to give credit to Will Birchfield of 97.1, who tweeted out the other day on Tuesday, I think, Tarik Skubal's stat line in his last 4 starts. Kansas City, 5 innings, 1 run, Tigers win. Tampa Bay, 7 innings, no runs, Tigers win. Houston, playoffs, 6 innings, no run, Tigers win. Cleveland's playoffs, 7 innings, no runs, Tigers win. He has given up 1 run, rather, in the last 4 outings he has had, and there's a legitimate argument, as again, Will Birchfield of 97.1 points out, that those are not only the 4 biggest starts of his career, which I think they pretty much objectively are, but those are an argument that those are the 4 most important starts that the Detroit Tigers have had in a decade. I don't think that's that far-fetched. And he has been the moment. He has lived up to the moment and then some. He's been unbelievable. And the fact that, 2 in a 7-game series, we'll see how the days off fall, potentially even 3 times in a series, you can go to the best pitcher breathing, is a heck of a thing to have in the back pocket. And if you somehow win both games at home, then you get him in Game 1 of the ALCS as well. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself there, just talking about the planning and whatnot for the Tigers' usage of Skubal the rest of the way here. The bullpen has also been a massive part of this team's success, not only in the postseason, but dating back to that August 10th date that everybody throws out. Let's dive into that and talk about some specific players who have been incredible over the last few weeks and in the postseason. We will do that right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at FanDuel. NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Also got to talk to you all about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. It filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. There's so many great features over at Game Time. We talk about it all the time. All-in pricing, where you can toggle a feature and see your total upfront. No hidden or surprise fees at checkout. They have a seat view, so you can see a picture of your seat before you buy it. And obviously, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the entire ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONMLB, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping Game 3 of the American League Divisional Series that the Detroit Tigers find themselves in. We're talking about what has gone right for the Tigers in the postseason, and then we'll talk about what has gone wrong or what we want to see improved upon here to keep this stretch going and keep the Tigers playing baseball. And then obviously we'll preview game 2 at the end of the show. So the bullpen deserves all the credit in the world. And I think everybody's going to focus on Skubal. They should. He's the best pitcher on the planet. People are going to focus on Kerry Carpenter. They should. That's the coolest home run, maybe in my lifetime. Certainly rivals Maglio Ordonez at a minimum. A lot of really key big name players that are doing big things here for the Tigers. But this bullpen has been the hero of not only the postseason, but dating back to the trade deadline on. Will Vest, I cannot sing the praises of Will Vest enough. If you're annoyed because of how often I have brought up Will Vest, that's the point I want to get to. I want to sing his praises so much that everybody's like, oh my goodness, will you please shut up and stop talking about Will Vest? Because I truly think he has deserved that. He has yet to give up a single run in the postseason. And since he came back from paternity in late August, he has been an absolute madman. No one can hit his fastball. AJ Hinch calls it FU stuff. It really is. And there has not been, as we've said a lot of times on this show, a single home run hit off of his fastball all calendar year. He has been an absolute weapon in the postseason. And I think for a bullpen that has lacked swing and miss stuff, him and then Bo Brisky have been huge revelations. And I don't even really like calling them revelations because Will Vest has been a solid reliever for the Tigers for a few years now. Bo Brisky, sans missing time with injury, has been a solid pitcher for the Tigers since he debuted a couple years ago. But this is now to the point where, with the game on the line in the bottom of the ninth in game 2, who went out there? Was it Jason Foley? Was it Tyler Holton? No, and no. Both of them could have pitched. Wasn't a back-to-back. Foley hasn't pitched much lately at all. They went Will Vest after Skubal in the 8th inning, and they went Bo Brisky in the 9th. And I think that's for a reason. These guys can get swings and misses. They can get strikeouts more so than the other two gentlemen I just named. Now, that's not to say that those two guys aren't incredible as well. Foley struggled a little bit in Houston. Tyler Holton struggled a little bit in as the opener in game 1, obviously, against Cleveland. But the fact of the matter is, Brisky and Vest combined have given up 0 runs in the playoffs. And they have been, you look at Bo Brisky's ERA since the start of September. It's unbelievable. Will Vest, as we've talked about, is the same way. So Sean Gunther has been phenomenal as well, a great lefty weapon. Bullpen games are coming over these next 2 days. I'm almost certain game 3 is going to be strictly bullpen. Game 4 maybe could be Reese Olson, maybe. But I really think you're going to see more pitching chaos over the next 2 games to just tide us over to a potential Skubal in game 5. So you're going to need the bullpen to hold really badly. If that isn't the most Captain Obvious statement of the century, I don't know what is. Great analysis, hard-hitting analysis here on Locked On Tigers. But in case you were wondering, they're going to need the bullpen to continue to be as good as it's been because the offense is not high-powered. And speaking of the offense, we'll talk about some players offensively who's been pretty solid. I think Jake Rogers has been great in the postseason. He's caught every game. He has called great games. Been really good defensively behind the plate, and he's hitting 300. It's a very small sample size. That's 4 games. I'm not saying he's ever going to be a 300 hitter over a season, but he's been a good hitter and obviously helped set up that Clase moment, helped as well in the Andy Ibanez game. Like he has been a really solid contributor offensively, and that extends the lineup and makes it so much more dangerous, and not dangerous from the sense that Jake Rogers is going to be like the best hitter on the planet or anything. He should continue batting 8 and 9. But if you extend that lineup, you just continue to allow, as we talk about all the time here, apply pressure until the pipe bursts. That's what this offense has done. And extending the lineup allows that to happen more so. Matt Vierling has had a solid postseason, especially really good game 2 against Cleveland. Justin Henry Malloy been really solid. Andy Ibanez been really solid. Winfield Perez continues to look like a professional hitter. Zach McKinstry has been solid at the plate. Obviously had the error that now isn't an error, I guess, in game one against Cleveland. But those four guys specifically, even if you want to move Vierling out of there and just talk Malloy, Ibanez, Perez, and McKinstry, those guys really, I think, are thriving because of AJ Hinch. I think that he is putting them in the exact situations that they can succeed in, and it has led them to have really solid offensive output so far in the postseason. And that is something that they are going to, again, shocker, obviously need. Now, when talking about what this team needs more of and what they're struggling in, there's two individuals that jump off the page at you. If you are even remotely a Tigers fan, right, you know what I'm about to say. If you're not a Tigers fan, welcome to the party, baby. Join the bandwagon. We got plenty of room. Riley Greene. Riley Greene this postseason is hitting 133 with a 478 OPS. Now, again, that's a 4-game sample size, but he has 1 extra base hit and 2 hits total with 0 RBIs. The 3 walks is nice to see. It means they're not just completely uncompetitive at bats. And I keep saying this, and they keep winning anyway. So, like, at the end of the day, what do I know? And I'll kind of steer everybody back to the original comment I made at the beginning of this show and the ALDS preview and the wild card round preview, right? At the end of the day, it's the playoffs, and anything can happen over a small sample in the postseason. But I really feel like if this team wants to keep this stretch going, wants to keep this run alive, wants to keep playing baseball, they are going to need Riley Greene to wake up and start performing here in the postseason. They are going to need it. This guy is not going to get moved down in the lineup. He's going to be a prominent fixture in the top half of the lineup consistently. He's going to be hitting even higher in the lineup against righties. He needs to do damage. He needs to drive runners in. He has done nothing in multiple situations, in which there are runners in scoring position so far in the postseason. Has done literally nothing yet. That is a need. They need Riley Greene to get going. He is way too important to this team's success to not. The other player, no surprise to anybody either, is Spencer Torkelson. He is 0 for 12 in the postseason. He has yet to record a hit in the playoffs and has played in every game. He does have 3 walks to his credit, but 7 strikeouts in 12 at-bats. That is to the point where I think, and I already saw it thrown around by some people online. Do you consider playing someone else at first base? Like, I guess it's more so, at what point do you consider playing someone else at first base? Andy Ibanez can play first. Matt Vierling even played a little bit of first at the end of the regular season. Right? I don't know what point. I don't know the answer. They pay AJ Hinch a lot of money to know the answer to that. They don't pay me anything to know the answer to that. I don't know. Against a lefty, it's tough because in theory, he's better at hitting lefties. So you don't want him on the bench against a lefty hitter necessarily, but that's also where you need Andy Ibanez in the lineup. It's been really rough, and I'm hoping for a turnaround. This lineup, and we said this in the regular season too, this lineup changes exponentially if Spencer Torkelson is hitting home runs. So significantly. He might be the biggest X factor in the entire lineup, legitimately. This lineup's production and the threat of scoring and the fear induced by the opponent when Spencer Torkelson is hitting homers is so significantly different than when he looks like he has so far in the postseason and for a decent stretch here of the regular season this year as well. It's been a rough go. He needs to turn it around. And I think that would go such a long way, not only for just obviously continuing to win games, but his confidence and for the organization's confidence in him and the outlook of first base going forward. Everybody wants this dude to succeed. And I'm sure he does too, more than anything. It's got to weigh heavy on him, man. I really feel bad for him, but these are the moments where we need a turnaround here from him and, again, from Riley Greene. Colt Keith also hitless in the postseason. And then my biggest point is just going to be team-wide clutch hitting. We will talk about that right after this. Got to talk to you all today about our friends over at Booking.com. Booking.yeah. Explore those U.S. cities that you've always secretly wanted to learn more about. Other baseball cities with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation meals, resorts, and so much more. On Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city during the postseason. Maybe it's time to taste test your baseball competition's cuisine, right? Hopefully there's not a game 5 in this series, but Cleveland is arguably our biggest rival, and there may be another game in Cleveland before it's all said and done. And if there isn't, right? If there isn't another game in Cleveland, the Tigers win the next 2 games at home, well, then guess what? You're talking about a game in another huge rival in Kansas City or the big bad Yankees in New York. You'll need a lot of Tigers fans there as well, if it is to happen. Not getting ahead of myself here. Still got games to play, obviously, but you can become that fan that travels on the road with the team at Booking.com. No matter what team you're rooting for in the postseason, Booking.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rivals. Booking.com. Booking.yeah. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. So, RISP. Really, honestly, a lot of guys in the lineup have pretty decent numbers this postseason. As we talked about earlier, there's a healthy chunk of this lineup that is actually looking pretty solid. It's just like, it's not that this team hasn't been able to get on base consistently. It's that they consistently either get on with 2 outs and nobody on. So then it's like, okay, well, then you're going to need to just string a few hits together, and that never happens. And the rally dies, or they get on base early and then just can't score the runners. This team's offense with RISP has been a talking point on this show since I took over for years and years. And this year in the regular season, especially in the second half, they turned it around and were actually really good with runners in scoring position. In the postseason, that has been very hit or miss, to say the least. No pun intended. Kind of pun intended. Pun intended. So, they've had enough clutch hitting and enough clutch hits, rather, to get them this far. But I have to imagine they'll need to improve in those situations, especially early in games against Cleveland, to keep this run alive. You need to score earlier. I know what happened on Monday was a magical moment, and one that none of us will ever forget. For, keeping your head above water and for consistency's sake, you need to, against the bullpen that's as good as Cleveland's, score against their starting pitching. You have to. Put a bow on this conversation, what we need to see improvements on. Would like Tyler Holton to not look like he did as the opener. We talked about that at the time, though. Didn't actually think he looked that bad. Just some pretty spotty defense behind him. Jason Foley, we know what he is. Not a strikeout guy, but going to be a big ground ball guy, big usage guy here the rest of the way as well. The other question I get asked all the time is, can they continue doing this with only one starting pitcher? Yeah. Yes, they can. Seriously, it's as simple as that. Does that mean they're going to win the World Series? No, but if they do lose, right, it's not going to be because they only have one starting pitcher. They have proven time and time again for 2 months now that they can do this and keep their heads above water. And honestly, more so than that. Like, they're not just staying alive anymore. They are shutting teams out in the postseason. They're pitching phenomenally. Phenomenally. That's a word, right? Yeah. Really well. So I really don't think they do. And the reason for that is because their bullpen isn't just a bunch of one-inning guys. It's a bunch of dudes that can go multiple. Will Vest has gone multiple. Jason Foley's gone over an inning. Tyler Holton goes over an inning all the time. And then that's not even to mention, Gunther, Hannafy, you name it, Herder, Montero pitched out of the pen. Obviously, you have Reese Olson on this roster. Every single name I just mentioned can go multiple innings. Bo Brisky used to be a starter. He can go multiple. Flexibility is key, man, and that's what this team has. Let's preview the rest of the series here. You now have home field advantage, Detroit Tigers fans. 2 of the final 3 games of this series are guaranteed to be played in Comerica Park. It's a back-to-back on Wednesday and Thursday. I don't say this lightly, but you really are. The excuses to lose this series are dwindling. I'll word it that way. You are really in a good position. Home game, on the road, but it's Tarik Skubal. You quite literally could not ask for a better setup going into game 3. Sweeping on the road, I guess, is like literally best case scenario, but I don't know, man. This is all I could have asked for. Split in Cleveland, give yourselves a chance to clinch at home, and if you don't, throw Tarik out there in game 5 and go play in the ALCS. Game 2 is first on the docket. It's TBD against Alex Cobb. TBD obviously heavily implies here bullpen game. Alex Cobb these days is a pitch to contact guy. He's got a mid-90s sinker. That's a really good pitch for him. His arm slot has dropped significantly over the years as he continues to get, try to adjust and find different ways to stay in the league for longer and longer. But he's got that sinker that's a really good ground ball pitch. He's got a upper 80s splitter that he can pair with that to also get ground balls or try to get some swings and misses every once in a while. And he's got a slow kind of curveball to pair with those two as well. So it's not a very diverse arsenal, but it's an effective one for him. This is the kind of profile that gets a ton of ground balls, not a lot of swing and miss, very low walk numbers, and not a lot of lift from batters, right? Guys have a hard time hitting fly balls against Alex Cobb. He's a 37-year-old who's had a lot of injuries over the last year, calendar year, really dating back to the end of last season. So this year he only has 3 starts for Cleveland, but has a 2.76 ERA. That's only in 16 innings pitched. The biggest thing I'm looking out for, okay? It drove me absolutely nuts that they continuously took the first pitch against Matthew Boyd. They were down 0-1 the entire Matthew Boyd outing. That's the word. Goodness. In game 2 there. And they got shoved against for 8 innings. Alex Cobb, in only 16 innings this year, Alex Cobb has a whopping 72% first pitch strike percentage. That is absurdly high. I can't even contextualize how high that is. League average is like 60, which means that half of the league has lower than 60. Right? 72, almost 3 of every 4 batters he faces, he starts off with the first pitch strike. Be aggressive early. This is a pitch to contact guy, and you have to give he doesn't walk anybody either. He's going to fill the strike zone. You have to attack and swing at the best pitch you see, and I really think that is going to be the first pitch sometimes here in this ball game. Now, if they go out there and they're really patient and he's spraying the ball all over the place, then good. I don't know anything, and the Tigers will have benefited from it, but that is such an insanely high number to me that I had to bring it up here. Like I said, this is probably a bullpen game for Detroit. Olsen, probably not. I guess you could. He's 4 days removed from the 5 innings he pitched in game 1. Seems like more of a game 4 thing for Reese Olsen there. This really could be complete bullpen work with no long 3, 4, 5 inning bulk guy, but we'll see. Herder is ready to go. Montero only pitched 2 innings in game 1. That you could throw him. I think this is all matchup ball. I think it could be like game 2 against Houston where, right, that was the stat we set on here from Tony Paul of the Detroit News, where not a single hitter in Houston's lineup in game 2 faced the same pitcher twice. I think you could see a similar thing here in game 3 against Cleveland. We're here, man. Playoff baseball back in Comerica. T Grizzly released a new album. That happened a few days ago, but the Red Wings season starts on Thursday. That game got moved. You got season opener in Detroit on Thursday. You got game 4 at Comerica in Detroit. We're on the up, baby. We're on the up. Appreciate you all greatly. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping Game 3 of the American League Division Series. Want to end the show by saying rest in peace to Louis Tiant, one of the just all-time legends of this sport on and off the field. Meant so much to Cuban baseball players, meant so much to the baseball community as a whole. Had the coolest windup you will ever see, and a windup that if you were ever a wiffle ball kid or ever a kid that was playing little league or t-ball or anything, at least one time when you learned about Louis Tiant, you mimicked that windup and delivery. So just wanted to say rest in peace to a baseball great, and thoughts and prayers with his family at this time. We will be back tomorrow. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.